This is the second part of the video series where I'm talking about this channel and my system. So, how you work with movement, you then start to incorporate the psychosomatic aspects, psychological training, and understanding strategy and how situations progress in the life and death situation, etc. And these all become part of how you look at and study a system. You will see terms like cybernetic chain. What is a cybernetic chain? A cybernetic chain is a decision making tree that compels you to look at alternatives, strong versus weak, and how they will create in an evolving situation different possibilities. Okay, things like very specific reference points to our movement. Our focus is life and death. I'm really teaching you how to use your body, weapons, to do what you have to do. And that includes killing, maiming, etc. I'm doing that with the understanding that through this process, because it is comprehensive, because we incorporate yoga training into the art I studied a Sikh form of yoga for many years. Because of my own training, I started out in a fighting club in Baltimore that has a reputation in those circles that gives you not only the fundamentals but the background and all you need to be a good, strong, wholesome individual. Okay? When you do that, what tends to happen is the art attracts people who are willing to make those commitments to their selves. And it tends to repel people who just want to be able to look good or just exploit others. So, with that said, that's the basis for our system. As far as students, the first thing I want to tell you is the big paradox in martial arts is your teacher is never responsible for anything that you do, ultimately. That's the first thing. The second thing is your teacher is responsible for everything and anything that you do. Now, when you are taught and follow prescriptive information, you ultimately have to be able to perform. Your teacher can't perform for you. Okay? You're responsible. Your teacher has this awesome responsibility of giving you the best resources to accomplish that end. And in this case, the end is life and death. So the teacher has ultimate responsibility because any sort of transmission of bad information or things that aren't really grounded in experience can put you in a very dangerous way. So your teacher bears ultimate responsibility for your actions. Now, I know that's a little bit of hard to grasp, but you'll understand it the more that you're involved, and maybe you take on some of those responsibilities one day. With that said, I studied a fighting system of karate that was full contact. I studied it for many years. Then I went into weapons work and jiu-jitsu. Studied that for many years, still studying karate. Eventually I did the Bujinkan for a while, which a lot of you know about, and I'll make some comments. And then I studied a Sikh form of yoga during this time for many, many years that deals with some of the more esoteric aspects. And I was very fortunate because a lot of people seek these psychological, mystical powers that are latent in certain martial arts practices, I was exposed directly to those through the Sikh form of yoga that I did. So I have entree to that. Things like the Kuji Kiri in Nimpo, some of the other things along the lines of internal energy, yada yada. And that is something which is a gift to be able to pass down to students. Since that time, I've studied many other systems in many different ways, so I have a fairly comprehensive understanding that compels me in my teachings, including I also spent time in a Buddhist monastery living for a period of residency. And I studied a doctoral level ethics, Eastern ethics, in a major university. So that's my grounding. That's my experience in a nutshell. I know a lot of you see stuff on the Bujinkan, so I'll make some comments about that. I tend to have a major disagreement. I was in the Buj for about 15 years. And my disagreement is very simple. I do not believe the Bujinkan is good for beginning students. I believe the opposite. Whereas most people say, if you start in this, you'll be amazing. My thinking, it's more along the lines of when you start training in the martial arts, you have to sort of get out there and bang around. Get on the mat, smack each other in the face, kick, punch, grapple. Only then can you start to appreciate the finer aspects, okay? A beginner needs that socialization to be able to appreciate some of the aspects which the Bujinkan does have. There are people in the system that are very talented and very able. There's also a lot of problems in the system that people point out, but it has both in that respect. And most of the people that really get some ability down the line that are worth studying with, they started in another martial art. So I think that's something relevant to my point. I don't know of anybody offhand who started in the art. That was their art primarily and the only, and progressed. Mostly because even in my generation, the people that started the Bujinkan only came over here around the 80s or so with Hayes and Duran Navan and some of the other pioneers, Jack Hoban. So with that said, those finer aspects are very important, and you can only appreciate them as levels to the game when you understand their value. And a lot of misunderstanding arises from not seeing their value because people are sort of taught and brainwashed into certain beliefs and patterns. With that said, let's talk about some of these beliefs and patterns and sort of set them right and give us a basis for understanding the different levels to martial arts training. Okay? We'll start that in the next video.